what not to do as a buyer. Okay, I have some bones to pick with a few different people. The first one, they contacted me to look at some houses for the third weekend in a row. However, they didn't tell me that they were driving down several hours to look at those homes. And when they texted me, I was out of town. And I told them that I was out of town. They drove down to see two specific houses without any plan to actually see them. I'm sorry, you have to talk to your real estate agent and see their schedule. They have to talk to the listing agent and see the listing agent's schedule. Not so much because the listing agent is going to be there, but because the listing agent has to contact the sellers. If they're living there, they need to get out of the house for the time period that you're going to be looking at it. And if they have kids and dogs and work from home and other obligations, they can't just drop everything at a second's notice to show you the home. So please, if you're planning on looking at homes, do it on a schedule. Do it with notice to everyone involved. Don't waste airfare or gas money coming to look at properties when it's not scheduled, when you haven't talked to everyone involved. Okay, so that was buyer number one. Buyer number two, similar situation. They had been looking online and they were thinking, oh, we'll come down, get a feel for the area. And they talked to their cousin that they weren't staying at their cousin's house. They were getting a hotel. But they didn't give the cousin notice, and that cousin was out of town for the week. So they came down to look on their own. In talking to the cousin who wasn't in town, she's like, oh, you have to talk to Ruth. She's great. She'll help you out. So they give me a call and I'm like, yeah, let me tell you all of this, get some great information for you. And so I was able to give them some information, give them some guidance on where to look, what to look at, price wise, location wise. And, it's very helpful. But everything has become so internet savvy, and we are so accustomed to Amazon same day delivery in some locations, but at least, waiting a week is not something that we're used to anymore. And even though when you log on to Zillow or any of the big technology websites, they say, click here, schedule an appointment for 10 o'clock tomorrow. Well, a couple of things happen when you do that. One, there are these buyer broker agreements between real estate agents these days and you, the buyer, that you need to sign an agreement saying that they're going to show you the house. Well, let's say you're working with somebody that was referred to you, you trust them, you've gotten to know them, everything's great. When you hit that button on Zillow, you're talking to another agent. Now, the real fear of this is the agent you signed the contract with that you're going to get percent from hopefully the seller, but if not the seller, from the buyer. When you click that, they're asking you to sign another one. If you have two contracts, you could be paying. Whoops. I'm not supposed to be saying any numbers. Whoops, whoops, whoops. There is no standard fee. You could be paying sorts of numbers. Okay, I just got myself in trouble. I'll be doing some bleeping. Bleep X number, X percent, double X. Those are the things you have to be aware of. Now, this same buyer that came down to look and hadn't really made appointments, she clicked that button and they're like, you have to sign this agreement. It's the law and it's for X percent for an entire year. They haven't even met her. They don't know her. They felt pressured. Do not be pressured. You can actually sign a one-time showing for one day for one property. And I discussed this with them and said, my typical is I will do my area, Collier County. But if you're going to be looking at Cape Coral, we're going to refer you to somebody else, somebody who's an expert in Cape Coral. Or if you're going up to Venice, that's going to be another. Now, I might not even know how certain areas of Naples compares to certain areas of Venice. Their prices could be a lot higher or a lot cheaper. And so you want to talk to both of these agents in the different areas. And you've already visited both areas. You love them both, but which can you afford? So we do have referrals. Now, back to the punching the Zillow button. When you click on that, that agent most likely is paying 50% of their commission to this technology company. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room on what they're going to charge you. And that's why you don't want to hit that technology button, book an appointment now. Another huge myth is if you contact the listing agent, you're going to get a better price. No, that's not the case. The listing agent typically represents the seller. And if the listing agent is doing the work of both the buyer's agent and the listing agent, they're not likely to cut you a deal. Or if they do cut you a deal, are they going to work in their own best interest to try and get more money, X percent times 1.75 to close the deal? Their job is to represent the seller as a typical way of doing things. Now, we do have transactions here in Florida where you represent the interest of both parties and you're not supposed to favor one over the other. But when a listing agent talks with the seller, they get this knowledge and they cannot share that knowledge with the buyer. And if the buyer says things, if they aren't simply a transactional buyer, then they are obligated to tell the seller what the buyer said, and that could hurt your negotiating power. So typically, always have a listing agent and a buyer's agent working together. And hopefully the seller knows that the buyer's agent is bringing the buyer to them and will negotiate a fair compensation for both the listing agent, which is already set in stone, and the buyer's agent, which is negotiable. There was this huge lawsuit a couple of years ago, and now they want upfront everyone to know that the commission that the seller is paying to the buyer's agent is 100% negotiable. It has always been negotiable, but now there's legal paperwork involved. And it's not a law. It is a contract between the buyer and the buyer's agent. Let's talk buyer number 3. She's under contract. She has loan commitment, but the inspection showed a lot of things that needed fixing. Now, fixing those things costs a lot of money. And she's actually in North Carolina, where they have what is called due diligence in addition to earnest money. In North Carolina, they have to pay the seller to take the house off the market. That dollar amount, even though it goes towards closing, is completely non-refundable the minute you write that check directly to the seller. And then you have the earnest money on top of it. The earnest money is for if the inspection shows that it's not going to be worth the price that they thought, or if she loses her job before loan approval, that she gets the earnest money back because the loan was not approved. It was contingent on financing. Those are some of the things that are very important for you to understand. Now, one of the things that if you're having concerns, look at my previous video about what would you do. If you have concerns, one of the best things to do is hit pause. Yes, the clock's ticking on the earnest money and the due diligence, so extend it. Don't make rash decisions. Make sure you have all the facts. What happened is once she said, no, it's going to be too expensive. Well, rates had already gone up. So the next house is going to be too expensive already. And is it worth starting from scratch, spending all of the money to see if the next house doesn't have these financial burdens that are down the line? She's currently in the process of renegotiating because it doesn't make sense if there are critical issues and the seller, they want to get the home sold. So are they really going to cut their nose to spite their face? That's the whole reason they get to keep the earnest money, is because not the earnest money, the due diligence money. They need to give back the earnest money because she hasn't been, because she's still in the due diligence time period. The loan's not approved until she has insurance, until she has the appraisal. And those things are important. But what's interesting, and a lot of people don't understand, is the home inspection is not the same thing as an appraisal. The appraisal looks at hazard and safety issues if you're buying, for example, an FHA loan, but they also look at it if you're buying a conventional loan, that they will note it in the appraisal. However, there are some safety and hazard issues that the appraiser won't see, but the home inspector will. That home inspection does not go to the lender. That home inspection is for you. And if there are defects, then you present it to the seller for compensation for those defects, that you can fix it. And that's one of the differences between a conventional and an FHA. FHA wants those things fixed up front unless you're doing a rehab loan. Whereas a conventional, you can be fully aware that these things need to be worked on and you can get a loan with these defects. So I apologize. My head isn't completely clear because I do have a cold, but I wanted to relay this information. 3 big warnings of what not to do as buyers. I hopefully will augment some of this with bleeps and notes in the YouTube video. You can watch that. If you're listening to it on a podcast, please go to YouTube and watch for any of the disclaimers, added information, or just give me a call. Ruth at Nexa Mortgage, 828-888-LOAN, or if you're a buyer down in sunny Florida, 239-899-6455 for Ruth, or 239-444-RUTH. Anyway, that's me. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. And hit that subscribe button. See what I'm like the next time I have a head cold or things are going tragically wrong or ecstatically happy. You want to know, right?